Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's Virtually Speaking webinar series. Just real briefly, want to let you know where you can view our previously recorded Virtually Speaking webinars if you're interested in viewing those at www.tnworks.org. You can find all previously recorded webinars. Our future Virtually Speaking webinars are announced on our social media accounts. Depending on where you're joining us from the area, you can visit our Facebook pages at American Job Center of Northwest Tennessee, American Job Centers of Southwest Tennessee, or American Job Centers of Greater Memphis. Throughout the webinar, if questions arise, feel free to go ahead and pop those in the Q&A box. And at the end, at the conclusion of the presentations, we will go and visit those question and answers for the benefit of the entire group. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelist for today's webinars. We have Tracy Exum joining us. She is the Director for Southwest Tennessee for the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. We have Wylie joining us as the Director of the Small Business Development Center. Kingsley also joining as the Director of Economic and Community Development for Gibson County, and Malia Evans, our Business Services Representative for the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in and get started today, and I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Exum.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to represent the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development this morning. I'm here to discuss potential incentive opportunities for projects looking to grow in our state, such as the one that was announced in Huntingdon this week. Congratulations on that, as well as existing companies that are growing and thriving in our great state. We work projects such as manufacturing projects, warehouse distribution companies, call centers, data centers, and corporate headquarters. All of our incentives are based on number of net new full-time jobs to be created, the capital investment in real and personal property, the average starting wage of the new hires, as well as the location. We can look at projects in 5-year windows, but companies don't have to look out that far if they choose not to. I'm going to talk today about two different buckets of incentives. One is our discretionary grant opportunities, as well as our statutory tax incentives. So I first want to talk about our fast track grant programs. And we have 3 different opportunities for our fast track grant programs. One is the Fast Track Economic Development Fund. The other is the Fast Track Job Training Program. And the third is the Fast Track Infrastructure Program. I want to really talk first about the one that has most frequently been used over many, many years. And that's the one in the middle. That's the Fast Track Job Training Assistance Program. That's a grant that we make directly with the company to help reimburse that company for the cost of training their new employees, whether that be classroom training, vendor training, anything like on-the-job training. But that's a grant we make directly with the company. And should that company be awarded a grant, the way that they get their incentive offer is by creating, filling, and retaining that job position for 6 months. And at the seventh month mark, they can submit for reimbursement of their grant. That grant, the way that you apply for the grant and all the others for that matter, is by completing an online application. Our staff, both me in Southwest Tennessee, as well as my other colleagues in the other parts of West Tennessee, we have Jana Helms and Tessa Kyle in Northwest, Blake Swaggart and Kenderick Harris, in the Greater Memphis region, can all assist you all with completing those applications and getting you set up to do so. So for the Fast Track Job Training Program, as long as the grant offer is, if the grant offer is greater than $250,000, there will be an accountability agreement associated with that grant. And the accountability agreement states that you must create at least 90% of the jobs that you commit to avoid repayment. That grant is very popular. I can't really think of any company that I work with across my region that hasn't taken advantage of that grant at some point in time. The second grant I want to talk about is the Fast Track Economic Development Fund. That's a grant that's made in exceptional cases where the project is going to make a significant impact in the community. That grant can be used for things such as building modifications or retrofit, such as putting a new roof on the building or something of that nature. It can also be used for new building construction, as well as real property acquisition, such as buying a piece of land or something of that nature. However, the Economic Development Grant, regardless of the incentive offer, does have an accountability agreement associated with that. And the accountability agreement states that the company must create at least 90% of the jobs that they commit to avoid repayment. The third grant opportunity that I want to talk about is the Fast Track Infrastructure Development Program. That's actually a grant that we make to the local community on behalf of the company that's either locating or expanding in the state of Tennessee. And that's a grant that we make for any type of public infrastructure that's needed for the project, such as water, gas, sewer, telecommunications, electric, things of that nature. We don't see that grant used very frequently anymore, simply because most of our industrial parks, communities have invested in them, and they've become certified and shovel ready, and they already have utilities there. However, that grant is available if there is a need whereby infrastructure is needed for the project. That grant can be a little more complicated because it does require a preliminary engineering report, a local match, but it is an option. So as it relates to our Fast Track 3 grant opportunities, companies can only choose one option. And our staff is here to assist you in identifying what the needs are of your project and to match you best with which grant opportunity would work best for your project. One other benefit that I want to bring to your attention is the bonus incentive. So for at-risk counties in Tennessee, we offer a 35% premium to whatever our offer is. For distressed counties, we offer a 50% premium for projects that locate in those distressed counties. And the purpose for those bonus incentives is we would like for those counties to jolt out of those categories. You know, at the end of the day, we don't want to have any distressed counties in the state of Tennessee. And so that's just a way to help boost job creation in those at-risk and distressed counties by offering that additional bonus incentive on top of our offer. Let me move into our tax credits and exemptions at this time. These are statutory incentives that are offered through the Department of Revenue. First of all, I want to talk about the job tax credit. That's a credit made to companies of $4,500 per job that can offset up to 50% of that company's franchise and excise tax liability. And that credit can be carried forward for 15 years until used. To be eligible for the credit in a Tier 1 and Tier 2 county, the company has to be creating at least 25 new net full-time jobs and making a capital investment of at least $500,000 in a 3-year period. Not only do we have the standard job tax credit for counties, we also have an enhanced job tax credit for Tier 2 through Tier 4 counties. For Tier 2 counties, not only will you get the standard job tax credit of $4,500 per job, you're going to get an additional credit of $4,500 per job for an additional 3 years. And during those additional 3 years, you can offset 100% of your liability, but you have to use the credit or lose it. And after that 3-year annual credit, your standard job tax credit picks back up and continues to roll forward. For Tier 3 counties, your minimum job creation to qualify for job tax credit and enhanced job tax credit is 20 net new full-time jobs with a capital investment of $500,000 over a 5-year period. And you'll get a 5-year annual credit of $4,500 per job. And during that time, you can offset 100% of your liability. For Tier 4 counties, you must create at least 10 new full-time jobs and make a capital investment of at least $500,000. And you as well will get a 5-year annual credit of $4,500 per job, but you use the credit during those 5 additional years or lose it, and then your standard job tax credit picks back up and continues rolling. For all of our incentives, both the fast track grant opportunities as well as the tax credits and exemptions, we require that the net new full-time jobs work, excuse me, a minimum of 37.5 hours a week for 12 months, and health coverage must be offered. Now, let me talk a little bit about another credit that really excites me, and that's the industrial machinery credit. This is a credit to companies of 1% of the purchase price, installation, and repair of qualified industrial machinery. What I like about this credit is that we know that companies are continually investing in repair of machinery, additional machinery, things of that nature, or else they wouldn't be in business. The beauty of this credit is there's no job creation required to take the credit. So companies should be taking this credit annually. If you're a company that we're talking to today and you're not sure if you're taking the job tax credit, or maybe you're not sure if you're taking the industrial machinery credit, please reach out to your ECD staff here in West Tennessee. We can talk to our tax administrator and she can check to see if you're taking that credit. And if you're not, we can set you up in our system to take that credit and provide you with the proper registrations to do so. Next, let me move over to our sales and use tax exemptions. And many of you may already know this. For manufacturers in the state of Tennessee, there's no sales tax on industrial machinery that you may purchase. There's a reduction in your energy tax. So for your energy fuels, your electric, water, sewer, for example, you're only paying 1.5% tax on those utilities. And then we have different other incentives for headquarters, warehouse, distribution, call centers, and data centers. So let me scroll back up to our fast track grant programs. If any of you, whether you're a company that we're talking to today, or maybe you're a local chamber or a stakeholder or an economic developer, if you find yourself with a project whereby you think that that company can take advantage of any of our incentive opportunities, please reach out to your ECD staff. We want to make sure that we get in front of that company early on, because these are incentives for job creation and job growth. The incentives aren't, the grant opportunities as it relates to the fast track grants are not retroactive. So we really need to be on the front end of the project and be involved in the project. Because our policies change from time to time, we really want you to bring us in early so that we can work with the company. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. And I know that we'll take questions at the end of the webinar. So I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Van, at this time. Van, take it away.
Good morning. I'm Van Wylie. I am the director of the Small Business Development Center at Dyersburg State Community College. The TSBDC is here to assist with existing and prospective business owners to start, to manage, and to grow their business. We provide one-on-one counseling, we provide training, we provide technical assistance, and we also participate in economic development activities in the community. There are a series of networks across the state that service the SBDC mission area. In West Tennessee, we have 4 centers. I'm located here at Dyersburg State in Dyersburg. In Memphis, there's an office at the Southwest Tennessee Community College, and Mr. Nashawn Brandt is the director there. Our Martin office is at UT Martin. It's called the Reed Center, and Landy Fuqua is the director at that center. Our Jackson office at Jackson State Community College is on campus there, and the director is Edwin Robbins. Our services that we provide to small business owner include the basic business operations and the basic functions. We primarily focus on business planning, preparing loan proposals, marketing, financial analysis, record keeping, and procurement. Other special services that we offer through our centers are things like website development, social media assistance, and international trade. International trade and exporting has gotten to be a real large area that we're focusing on. But the three main areas that I want to talk about this morning are the areas of training, business planning, and finding funding for your business. For training, we provide no-cost, virtual, in-person business consulting, training. We provide resources to help businesses to start, to grow, and to sustain their business. Our training classes are directed at business growth and to improve the bottom line of the business. We offer a variety of training programs to help educate and inform entrepreneurs throughout all their steps of their business development. We have short-term seminars that last from 30 minutes to an hour. We have long-term training sessions that might take a couple of weeks for a person to complete. Our training classes are, like I said, are there to design to help a business grow and improve their bottom line. On our website, tsbdc.org, you're going to be able to find several different types of training. You're going to find some classes that are on demand that you can take at your leisure. There's going to be some in-person classes and some classes that you can sign up for that are going to be virtual in nature. Probably the biggest area of our expertise and where we spend most of our time is in business planning, helping that business prepare the business plan either for a management tool or for a business plan to seek the funding. We assist in the development of a well-written business plan, and that's what we strive for. We find that the business plans improves the possibility of success of the business, helping to create and to evaluate the business feasibility and have an objective way for the business to manage itself in years to come. We find that proper business planning helps the business avoid mistakes, helps the business to develop a production and administrative and marketing plans, as well as budget guidelines. We provide the business owner or the prospective business owner software tools, research, assistance, the financial projections, and actually the assembly of the plan itself, the assembly and copying and binding and all that. We put that in together for you. Probably the biggest area that follows next in line with the business plan is going to be the funding opportunity. Small Business Development Centers do not make loans. We're not a lender, but we can assist you in preparing the documentation and getting you prepared to meet with the lender to obtain funding. That's completed with the business plan. That's rehearsing your presentation with the bank. That's rehearsing and going through what we call the elevator speech of your business. We work with all types of lenders. We work with, of course, the Small Business Administration. We work with the USDA on their business and industrial loan program. We work with all the commercial lenders in the area. I will say right now, the credit market is pretty tough with interest rates going up like they have. And bankers and lenders are taking a very conservative approach in what they're looking for to fund. We also work with several non-traditional sources of credit. We work with nonprofits such as Pathway Lending. We work with Communities Unlimited. We work with the area micro lenders in our area, revolving loan funds at the development district. Those are good sources of credit that we work with on a daily basis. But I must say, generally, there are no government grants available for business. With the exception of 2 grants that I can think of, the USDA program has a value-added producer grant, and they have an Energy for America grant that will assist businesses in their quest. In conclusion, I might say that working with a SBDC consultant will improve their chances of a business in success. SBDC clients achieve higher sales and employment growth are typically higher than any other businesses in the area. I would invite you to look at our website. It's tsbdc.org. On that website, you can sign up for consulting. You can sign up for training that's available online and on demand. And you can sign up for our services that we provide. I will be turning over now to Kingsley Brock.
Thanks, Van. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kingsley Brock. I'm Director of Economic Development for Gibson County. One thing real quick, I'm fighting a little touch of bronchitis, so if I mute you real quick because I have a coughing spell, I'll be right back. What I'd like to talk to you today about is a main local incentive that can be offered through the Industrial Development Board in your community. Local government, city and county, are not able to offer incentives to projects and to companies, both new projects to a community and to existing industries. So many years ago, industrial development boards were created by the state legislature as an entity that can offer incentives. So what I want to talk about is a little bit about industrial development boards and then get into payment in lieu of tax, which is a tax relief that industrial development boards can offer for job growth, capital investment, and wages. So industrial development boards are defined as public corporations to finance, acquire, own, lease, or dispose of properties. To that end, such corporations may be able to maintain and increase employment opportunities by promoting industry, trade, commerce, tourism, agriculture, and housing. By inducing manufacturing, industrial, governmental, educational, financial, service, commercial, recreational, and agricultural enterprises to locate in Tennessee. So IDBs, industrial development boards, and really should be called, in my opinion, community development boards, because they do more than industrial. The name industrial sounds like the board can only do things that are related to industrial projects, but that's not the case. Real quick, the IDBs are formed. They're corporations that are formed with their approval of the county or city government. They can have a minimum. They must have a minimum of 9 members and can have as many as 11, sometimes more in the larger cities. There are over 200 industrial development boards located in the state of Tennessee. And in Gibson County, I work with 6 industrial development boards, 1 with the county, and then 5 of our communities have their own industrial development boards. So projects that IDBs can finance are obviously, many of you on this call are manufacturing. So manufacturing, assembly, warehouse, distribution. They can also finance canals and ports, parking and railroad, commercial enterprises, office buildings, some healthcare and educational facilities. There's some restrictions around those. Certain recreational facilities, theme parks, amusement parks, and sometimes low to moderate income, elderly or handicapped multifamily housing, and some restrictions with hotels and motels. The Milan IDB helped facilitate the Hampton Inn location in Milan a number of years ago. So local industrial development boards are able to offer the main incentive for local communities is a property tax relief. It's called a payment in lieu of tax, or a pilot program, PILOT. And tax reductions are based on, it's just like Tracy said earlier, with the state incentives, tax reductions are based on capital investments, job creation, the amount of wages, what the average is, and the community impact on the project. There's no set standard formula. Some of the larger communities will come up with their own formula or criteria that a company must achieve in order to receive some tax relief. In Gibson County, we do not have requirements, though you have to have at least 25 jobs and a $500,000 investment, similar to the state. Pilots are offered over a specific period or term of years, can be 3, 4, 5 years, or as many for large projects up to 20 years. Anything over 20 years requires approval of the state comptroller. The relief can be given for both real and personal property investment, or it can be either one of those. And I'm going to show you an example in just a minute. Many communities have special school district tax, which is added on with their city and county tax. In Gibson County, we've got 5 special school districts. So each of those school districts has their own school tax that's added along with the county and the city. And so I'll show you this spreadsheet in a minute to give you an idea of what that looks like. Now, a company, there's a lot of paperwork that's involved with a pilot. An attorney, an experienced attorney with this type of, with experience in this program is really required. So on paper, the way this works is if a company is investing, say, $5 million in their facility to build a new 100,000 square foot manufacturing plant, the community can offer tax relief on that investment. Now, the way it works is the company must, on paper, sell their real estate for $1 back to the IDB, and the IDB will lease the land back to the company, land and building back to the company for the term of the pilot. That's just the way it's required legally through the state statute. The IDB cannot sell the property. They cannot do anything with the property. It's just a paper transaction that allows the IDB to go through the legal process of offering the tax abatement. Again, at the end of the term, paperwork is completed to sell, and for $1 the property back to the company. So you never want to enter into something like this without expertise from a lawyer. Also, I want to say that each folks like Tracy and myself and Van, every community, every county in West Tennessee has an economic development director and a chamber director. So if you've got questions about the information you've seen today, please reach out. Well, you can reach out to us, but also please feel free to reach out to your economic development professional or your chamber professional who can direct you to the right resource. Now I'm going to show you a spreadsheet that I created to calculate pilots. So I've got a scenario here, and I've changed the names, but it's just a manufacturing company. And for this particular example, I've got a manufacturing company in the automotive industry that is going to build a new 150,000 square foot manufacturing plant and create 50 jobs with an average wage of $18.44. So I'm using Mylan as an example here. All the numbers and all the information in yellow are calculations. So I simply enter in numbers into those boxes, and the rest of the spreadsheet calculates. So if you look on the side under manufacturing company, you'll see city, county, and special school district. Well, the city is Mylan, the county is Gibson, and the special school district is the Mylan Special School District. Below that, you'll see the total investment that I projected for this project is $4.5 million. And you can see there that I've got all of that in the building and the land. I don't have any personal equipment in this project, even though the company would be making a personal property investment. I want to make a simple example for you and not have too much information on the screen, but to be able to show you this simple example. If you cover over to the right, you'll see the tax rates, and I can, depending on the city or the special school district, I can change those rates. But for Mylan, the tax rate currently is $1.22 per $100 of value, and Gibson County is $1.10, and the Mylan Special School District is $2.16 for a total tax rate of $4.86 and 44 hundredths. So if you look down at the middle of the screen, this is where the calculations are. In the middle there, you'll see the abatement percentage, and I've put in a percentage for this example of 50%. Pilots are negotiated with the community. And so you work with your economic development professional, and they will, if the project has enough community impact, if you've got enough capital investment and the job creation, the wages are good, then many times communities will come in and offer tax relief to incentivize the project. And again, as I mentioned, this can be for a new company locating in the area, into the community, or it could be for an existing industry expansion. Existing industries are what keeps West Tennessee going on the manufacturing side. We love to recruit new projects, but most of job creation for West Tennessee is done through our expansions of our existing industries. So we try to pay close attention to those folks and stay in constant contact with them to help them with their expansions. If you look at the middle of that chart, you'll see where this spreadsheet, I calculate the city real tax. I calculate the city personal tax, which is 0 in this case, because I'm not using any of the personal property equipment to calculate the pilot. You have the county real property tax, you have the county personal tax, which again is 0, and then you have the special county real tax, special school district tax, and then the special school district personal tax, and then the abatement percentage of 50%. As I mentioned, the percentage could be 75%, it could be 25%, it could be 100%. And it also can be a graduated scale of starting out with 100% in year 1, 80% in year 2, 60 in year 3, 40 in year 4, and going down to 20 in year 5, and then fully taxed in year 6. And again, the terms can vary. So I guess the main thing I want you to see is the effect of abatement. So on this particular project, as I mentioned again, they've got a $4.5 million investment. The tax relief is 50%, and you can see it's for 5 years. That's the term of this particular example. And I've got down in that left box the taxes that will be paid over that 5 years. And I've also got the taxes that will be abated over that 5 years. And in this particular example, the numbers are the same because I used a 50% abatement. So the city tax paid and abated over that year, over the 5 years, is $72,000. The county real tax is for just over $49,000, and the special school district tax is $97,000. So the total tax paid through the 5 years for this project by the company is $218,000, and the total abatement, the tax relief they received, is a little over $218,000. So that's a nice incentive for the community to offer for the expansion or for the construction of this new facility to incentivize this company to come to the community. So that's really in a nutshell. I could talk about this for 2 hours. There's a lot of detail that goes behind a pilot and how you negotiate and how you figure out whether you're doing real or personal or both or what combination in the number of years. But it is a really nice incentive that can be offered locally. And it's the main incentive that's offered from a local community to tag along with incentives from, as Tracy said, from Tennessee ECD, as well as TVA has incentives. So I'm going to turn it over to Malia at this point to talk about OJT. And thank you for your time. We'll come back for questions.
Thank you, Kingsley. Thank you, Tracy and Van, for that great information. We are going to now start talking about OJT, the on-the-job training grant that is available typically through your local workforce development board or your American Job Center's business services divisions. This particular grant is available across all sectors, unless, however, it's a special funding bucket that has been issued temporarily from the state where it might be sector-based. But in most cases, throughout the fiscal year of each workforce development board, there is a bucket of funding typically available throughout the year that is not sector-based, that would apply to, to a local boutique, that could apply to a local hospital, to a manufacturing facility, to a local small engine shop. Just it's a wonderful, wonderful grant. I used to sit in Van's seat years ago as the director of the Tennessee Small Business Development Center. And when I was director, it was so frustrating that there was rarely ever anything that was available to for-profit businesses in a grant form. There were always loans, and loans have to be paid back. So that wasn't really anything that was being given to a for-profit company. But all the time there was this OJT grant available, and I knew nothing about it as the SBDC director. So I love the OJT grant because it's a wonderful opportunity to help not only the larger corporations because it's available across the board, but it's a great grant to help the little guy, to help the smaller businesses as well. So especially for all of you who are small businesses on today's webinar, I really want you to pay close attention for the next couple of minutes about this OJT grant, the on-the-job training grant, and then reach out to your business services person in your county with your local workforce development board. And that contact information for Northwest and Southwest is at the bottom of this handout, which will be provided to you in the follow-up email. And then there's also other contacts in Greater Memphis as well, and across the state if you're not from West Tennessee. So what is the on-the-job training grant, OJT? There's lots of alphabet soup, as you might have figured out in today's webinar. The OJT grant is a reimbursement grant. First of all, that's a very important word. It's a reimbursement grant. It's not money just handed to you and your company up front. There is some performance expected, and then you get reimbursed for that performance. So if you are a company that has been in business for at least 1 year, and you have at least 5 full-time employees, you, like I said earlier, in any sector, OJT is something you need to reach out to us and let us talk with you about it, because it's something that it's just money you're leaving on the table if you are hiring people. There are exceptions to that being in business 1 year rule that are directly related to the projects, new projects that our other 3 colleagues on the webinar today have spoken about. OJT can be made available in the process of the establishment of a new company. However, there has to be significant capital investment being made and significant job creation being made. But it's not off the table. It's something else that can be added to the recruitment package for communities who are recruiting. So we do welcome the opportunity with our local communities to be at the table in those conversations where there is industrial or new project, new business recruitment occurring, because the OJT grant is an excellent addition to their incentive packages to get those companies to come to their communities. So OJT is related to the hiring of new staff, new employees. The grant is available to reimburse the employer 50%. Now, let me clarify. This is the policy and the procedure for Northwest and Southwest Tennessee local workforce development regions. Each region across the state that offers the OJT program does have the autonomy to set their disbursement parameters, by policy of their local board. So how I'm explaining it today, let me just be clear that how I'm explaining it today is how Northwest and Southwest Tennessee workforce regions disperse their OJT funds. Your local, whatever region that your company is in or that you're wanting to reach out to about, they may have slightly different disbursement processes, but for the most part, the grant itself and what it serves to do is the same across the state. So in Northwest and Southwest, the way we disperse OJT is to companies who are hiring. Once you have made a job offer, you would refer that information about that employee to your workforce development board business services person, who will work with the local American Job Center career specialist to determine if that person meets the grant eligibility. And we won't go deep in the weeds on that. That's like another half a day seminar. But you let us worry about determining whether the person is eligible for the grant for you or not. You just sit back and reap the benefits of the grant. We'll take care of all of the housekeeping of it for you. So you refer to us that you have made this job offer and that the person's going to start work, at X date, 3, 5 days a week out, whatever. We'll determine if that person meets the eligibility criteria of the grant. In Northwest and Southwest, that's the WIOA eligibility, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act eligibility. And then we will confirm to you that they are eligible. Once that person has completed 320 hours on the job, again, this is Northwest Southwest policy, 320 hours on the job. That's worked hours, not just paid hours, because you might have paid a holiday, you might have paid a bereavement leave or something like that. It's worked hours. You would then be eligible to receive the reimbursement of 50% of those hourly wages you paid to that employee for that first 320 hours. So, and there's no limit throughout the year. As long as we have money still available in the OJT bucket, you can continue sending the information about your new hires to us to see if they're eligible and then get them on the program. So there's no limit to the amount of OJT you can receive throughout the fiscal year. However, there is a retention requirement for you to be renewed into the program when your first OJT period of enrollment expires. Our policy in Northwest and Southwest is that your OJT period runs concurrent with your workers' compensation policy dates. And so when your workers' compensation policy expires and is about to renew, so does your OJT enrollment, and you would need to re-enroll into the OJT program for that next year of being active in the program. And so when it's re-enrollment time, renewal time, we look at what your retention rate has been of those folks you benefited from OJT grant on. And we're looking to see that you have maintained at least a 50% retention rate of the people that you hired and used the OJT program on those folks. So anything below a 50% retention rate, we just need to look at, were there special circumstances, like a pandemic? So that would be a special circumstance that could have prevented you from meeting that 50% retention rate. We do look at what caused the 50% mark to not be met, and if there were special circumstances, we can make case-by-case decisions on the renewal. So OJT is an easy program for all businesses as long as you have 5 full-time employees. They do have to be W-2 direct employees. They can't be staffing agency contracted employees. They have to be your employees on your payroll, not 1099s, just 5 full-time, at least 5 full-time, and preferably for you to have been in business at least 1 year. And again, special circumstances could be a workaround if you're a new company to the area. Lots of detail thrown at you. Again, this handout will be handed to you, but let me just summarize that. Don't worry about what you missed or what you didn't understand or what I didn't explain correctly or clearly. All you have to do is reach out to your workforce board business services person, and each county has one, either through their workforce board or through the American Job Center partners, and we will get you to the person that directs that OJT program for your county. And let's get every business that is on this webinar today enrolled in the OJT grant program if you are hiring people. And this is not new jobs necessarily. This is if you're replacing someone who has just resigned and retired, or you've had to terminate, unfortunately, someone and you need to replace them. OJT is for new jobs or replacement hires as well. So don't leave OJT funding on the table. Contact us and let us help you get enrolled in that program. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to our host, Ms. Ginger Powell, who will take us, I believe, into the question and answer session.
Thank you, Malia, and thank you to Kingsley and Van and Tracy. We appreciate all the information that you provided today, and we are going to go into question and answer. We have several that have come in the question and answer box. So again, as we start answering these questions, if that generates new questions for you, feel free to go ahead and enter those into the Q&A box, and we'll answer those as a panel. So the first question is for Tracy. Do temporary employees hired through a staffing agency count in the jobs created numbers that I would track for performance of the training grant, or only my direct hires?
Thanks, Ginger. That's a great question. So for our purposes, we only count full-time employees of the company. So staffing employees, temporary employees, contract employees don't count toward full-time job creation. However, if you have a temporary workforce that you are looking to convert to permanent full-time employees on your company's payroll, then at that point they can count toward our performance. Good question.
Thank you. Okay. The next question is, I never realized the SBA definition of a small business can have so many employees and such high annual sales. When I think of small business, I usually think of local mom and pop companies. If my manufacturing facility only has 100 employees locally, but we are a division of a larger nationwide company with more than 500 employees, would you still be able to assist us with workforce development training?
I'll take that, Ginger. Yes, I would say we could assist with workforce development training. I will say that SBA has a very complicated way of defining a small business. It's defined by NAICS code. It's defined also by revenue and the number of employees that you have. But manufacturing carries a large number of employees to be and is still qualified as a small business. So yes, I would say we could assist you with workforce development.
Okay. The next one is for Kingsley. What steps are required of a local landowner to have property considered for option by the local industrial development board? Do I bear the cost and perform infrastructure prep before making it available for option?
No, you don't do that. We didn't really discuss that, but because there's so much that an IDB is able to do. So basically, if I had a piece of property, say 100 acres of farmland, that I wanted to offer to the IDB for a manufacturing plant, there's a couple of things that need to be, a couple of criteria for that land. How close to the interstate is it? How close to the 4-lane is it? How close to utilities, electric, water, sewer, and gas is the property? So if you've got a wonderful, beautiful tract of land that's 5 miles from the sewer, and you're on a septic system, most likely it's going to cost about $15 million to run that sewer to that property. So you get into that cost thing. But if you've got a piece of property that you think is valuable, that's close to those utilities, that's close to the 4-lane. Obviously, companies want to locate where transportation's good, where they can hook up to utilities and have all the capacity for their operations, and they don't want to have to spend a ton of money doing that. So the closer you are as a landowner, if you're interested in selling your property or getting the IDB to consider your property, you should contact your economic development contact in your community and get them to come out and look at your property and discuss the process with you.
Thank you for that. Malia, this is an OJT question, I believe. Can companies that utilize staffing agencies take advantage of the OJT grant when transitioning those employees onto the company's payroll?
That question is yes / case by case, I would say. Because at that point, yes, the employee does then become the direct hire. So you would want to refer that information about that new hire to your business services person to then work with the career specialist at the American Job Center. But again, that individual at that point would need to be made WIOA eligible. And there are some issues, not issues, but there are some criteria that would be different about that employee, such as what was the wage they were making when they were the temp agency. And there is a standard sustainable wage mark that varies. It changes, annually sometimes. But whatever that current sustainable wage mark is, they would need to have been making less than that. Or depending on their household income. Again, that's deep in the weeds on the eligibility part. But the short answer is yes, definitely refer those people and let us see if they would be eligible. There's absolutely nothing wrong with referring someone to us for us to determine their eligibility. Because the worst case scenario is you get an email back that says, sorry, this one's not eligible. Best case scenario is you get an email back that says, yay, this one is OJT eligible and you're going to benefit from the grant. So short answer is yes, they could be referred for the OJT program.
Thank you for your answer, Malia. I have another question that's come into the question and answer box. I'm not sure who to ask this question. If a company is in the planning process for creating additional jobs with adding new equipment and processes and a building expansion or upgrade, who should be contacted to understand eligibility for funding?
I'll take that one. You definitely need to reach out to ECD. That's a great project that we definitely want to talk to the company about. There could be multiple opportunities. And I'll just give an example. I had a company a couple of years ago that was an existing company, and they were adding employees and adding on to their building. Well, because they were adding on physically to their building, they needed increased fire protection. So they applied for the infrastructure grant through the local community to increase the water line that ran up from the highway to their building. That's just a simple example. So definitely reach out to us as well as your local economic developer like Kingsley and others across the region. Thank you.
It's beneficial to reach out to all the possible resources because the funding could be braided or used for separate projects on the overall project, correct? Yeah, okay.
I would add to that, kind of a one-stop shop is your county economic developer or your chamber director, because that person is then going to make the calls to get the Tracys and the Janas and the Vans and the workforce boards. That one stop for you is going to get all those other people to the table to have one big meeting with you to let you know everything that would be available to you. And pretty much everything on this call today, on this webinar today, in that scenario sounds like you could benefit from. So,
Ginger, let me jump on that as well. So one organization we haven't really talked about is TVA, which supplies power to all of Tennessee through the distributors. So TVA also does economic development. They have a team of project managers, just like ECD. They have incentives for your that can give you a reduction of your electric bill based on your demand and load and job creation and capital investment. So that's when we talk about incentives in Tennessee, it's really, I like to refer to it as a three-legged stool. You have the state, you have the TVA, and you have the local community. And you can also, if you're bringing in Van and others, then there's more legs to the stool. But in general, you got the state, TVA, and the local community, and we all work together to put together a package that's competitive to help you expand or to recruit a new industry to the community, because we're always competing. If it's a new industry, we're competing with Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, all our neighbors, and they're offering incentives. So when we put the three organizations together, we feel like we're really competitive as a group, where we're not as competitive as individuals, but when we can combine, we can compete with our surrounding states.
there's one more agency that wasn't able to be with us today that Van is very familiar with because he retired after 100 years of working with them, and that is USDA. And so there are also some programs that are available through USDA and your local economic developer or chamber director person that's going to help you with any new projects or incentives would also welcome the USDA representative for your area to the table as well. So that's another source of funding you haven't even learned anything about today because they weren't able to be with us today. But there are some economic development and project grants and opportunities available through USDA as well.
Well, that is all the questions that we currently have in the Q&A box. If any more pop in on our wrap up, I'll make sure to ask those. But I just want to thank our panelists for coming on today and sharing all of this information with us, and our attendees for taking time out of their day to learn about these incentives. And we will see you next quarter for our next virtually speaking webinar. Thank you.